Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here, videocopilot.net, and welcome to another very exciting tutorial on the Action Essentials 2 DVD. So, what we have here is Sam inside of this garage that is supposedly, collapsing on top of him. And maybe there's an explosion went off and the whole building's falling down and, he's trying to get out of there. But more importantly, we're just trying to find cool ways to use these action essential elements. So we're going to get started on this tutorial. I have this garage footage and we're going to drop it into a new comp. And here we have Sam all by himself. Pretty sad. All right, first thing we need to do is motion track the background. Now it was pretty difficult, but I'll kind of walk you through it. So we're going to create a null object and then we're going to select our footage, go to the tracker controls, bring that up and click track motion. And then we're going to move our track point around here. And I actually was able to track this point right here pretty well. Not great, but pretty well. And then we just click the track forward. And then when it goes off, when it gets messed up, which it will, what you can do is then use page up and page down and basically do it by hand. So unfortunately, it's pretty difficult when it gets pretty blurry like that. And then once you get to a point where it is in focus again, then you can again track forward. Not for very long, apparently. A lot of hand tracking and getting that to work right. I'm going to go ahead and skip the embarrassment of me trying to do that. I'm going to copy my null object over from the previous comp. And voila, we have a halfway decent track. But really, it's not that good. But because of the excitement of the scene and all the things that are going to be going on, you're not going to really be able to tell anyway. So, it's okay. Here we have our action essential elements. I have some debris, some dust, and some sparks. So let's add some sparks. First thing we have is the welding ceiling sparks. And so we have this great little element that just burns from the top. And we're going to put this right on top of the light here in the background. We're going to set it to additive. And we're going to parent it to the null object so that it somewhat stays on that element. Now, we don't want to have to mask it out when it goes over Sam, so we'll just move it over. Or better yet, we can add one of those patented feather masks. That's how we blend the elements together in Action Essentials. We add a mask, we feather it, and no one's the wiser. And we also have these welding drops, which are great. They create sort of the look of things hitting the ground. So here's the sparks hitting the ground. We turn that on, set it to add also. Now we also want to add a mask. Here's the bounds. We want to add it just inside the bounds and add a good feathering. And that's important to make sure that, these elements blend well. So we'll turn on our welding. Those sparks come down, and then our ground sparks start lighting up. Now we want to parent that to our null object as well. And so now you can see our sparks are coming down and they're hitting the ground. And, it looks pretty good. Now the other thing, it looks like our sparks from the ceiling should be a little bit smaller so that they hit down where our sparks are. So we want those to line up somewhat. And that seems to look pretty good. So that's one of the elements. Then we have the welding out of focus. And I told you that these were going to come in handy. And I wasn't kidding. We'll set this to add. And we'll scale this one up. And then we'll parent it to the null. This is basic stuff, really. But look at this. Having those out of focus foreground ones just really makes it look wild. I mean, just that alone could be a great, electrical type of effect. But we've also got tons of debris and dust. So he hears the rumbling, and we can maybe offset some of these and, feather them in or whatever. But we have some debris falling. So if we look at this is kind of like some wood and some dust. Well, we want to zoom this in, move it over to the side here, parent it to our null, and maybe add a touch of color correction. So we have sort of a greenish tint in our footage, so we'll bring the red channel down a bit there and just try to make that match. Now, the other thing is that many of these elements are filmed in slow motion so that they can be used on a larger scale, but you may want to go into time stretch and set it to 50, which will take it to about real time in most cases. And just kind of, play around, see what looks good to you, but the real time will be a little bit better fit in this case so that everything looks like it's falling, instead of fluttering. And we have some other debris elements here. Same kind of concept. We'll go time stretch to about 50. And, those are some small particles. And make sure that our out of focus sparks are on top of everything, because those are closest to the camera. And then we have another debris element that we can just push over to the side. And we probably want to copy those curves and paste them to that element. Well, it looks a little bit different. Let's match that. Okay. And then we'll parent that to our null object. So everything gets parented so that it all flows. And then also, we'll do that time stretch to 50. So that all falls down like a crazy disaster movie. Now be careful. Make sure that you're not seeing any edges if you're not supposed to be. That looks pretty wild. And finally, we have a great dust element, which, after all that stuff hits the ground, it sort of just pops up just a little bit. And we'll parent that to the null object. And that's just a secondary element that you just see in a couple frames. Just gives you, the depth of craziness going on here. Nice. Now we can also add motion blur. We can turn the switch on and then turn it on for the comp, and that way all of the elements will, blur out based on the movement of the camera. You can see that the sparks here are kind of blurring out, but we'll just shut that off for now for the sake of speed and such. And finally, we can add a quick little adjustment layer, maybe a curves adjustment mixed with a tint effect. And we'll tint it, just a little bit and add some contrast here with the curves. And Sam doesn't look too worried there. He looks like he's maybe auditioning for like some sort of shampoo commercial where he's about to run his hands through his hair. And, never mind. Anyway, I'm Andrew Kramer. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next time.